I was dying for 2 years while my own family laughed at me. My husband was in the middle of telling his poker buddies about my latest medical drama when Dr. Harrison called with my test results. I answered the phone standing right there in our kitchen in Riverside, California, with 5 men chuckling about their wives' imaginary ailments. Mrs. Kellner, Dr. Harrison's voice was different from usual. Careful. I need you to come in immediately. Your lymph nodes. We found something. David didn't even pause his story. Oh, that's just my wife finding another reason to skip work tomorrow. The men erupted in laughter while I held a phone call that was about to change everything. My name is Rebecca Kellner. I'm 38 years old, and until yesterday, I thought I was losing my mind. For 2 solid years, my body had been screaming that something was wrong. Not dramatic, movie-sick wrong, just wrong in ways that made me feel like I was living in someone else's skin. I'd wake up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My shoulders ached constantly. I lost 15 pounds without trying, which everyone celebrated like it was an achievement. The night sweats were so bad, I'd wake up in a puddle, shivering and confused. But every time I mentioned it, the response was the same. You're getting older, Becca. It's stress from the kids. You've always been dramatic. David, my husband of 14 years, had perfected the art of dismissing me without even looking up from his phone. Our kids, Mia, 12, and Connor, 10, had learned from watching him that mom's complaints were just background noise. Even my own mother had stopped taking my calls when they started with, I've been feeling, Rebecca, you need to stop looking for problems where there aren't any. But here's what none of them knew. I'd been quietly documenting everything for 8 months. Not because I'm vindictive, but because I started to believe I was actually crazy. Let me paint you a picture of what getting older looked like in the Kellner household. June 2022. I told David I was having trouble sleeping because of joint pain. His response, while eating the dinner I'd cooked despite feeling like death. Becca, you sit at a computer all day. Of course your back hurts. Maybe try yoga. August 2022. I mentioned to my sister Lisa that I was worried about the weight loss. Are you kidding me? You look amazing. I'd kill to lose 15 pounds without trying. October 2022. I finally convinced my doctor, Dr. Peterson, to run some blood tests because the fatigue was getting dangerous. I'd fallen asleep at a red light twice that month. The tests came back normal, which everyone interpreted as confirmation that I was fine. See, David said, waving the results like a victory flag. You are fit as a fiddle. You just need to stop worrying so much. January 2023. The night sweats got so bad I started sleeping in the guest room. David's reaction. Great, now you're going through early menopause. That explains the mood swings. March 2023. I noticed lumps in my neck. Small, hard, movable. I mentioned them to David while he was watching TV. Without looking at me. They're probably just stress knots. You carry all your tension in your shoulders. April 2023. The lumps got bigger. I made an appointment with Dr. Peterson. He felt my neck for about 10 seconds. Mrs. Kellner, these feel like swollen lymph nodes from a minor infection. Take some ibuprofen and they'll go down. They didn't go down. May 2023. I asked David to feel the lumps because they were getting harder. He finally looked up from his phone, pressed his fingers against my neck for exactly 2 seconds, and said, I don't feel anything unusual. You're probably just poking at them too much. June 2023. I started having episodes where I'd feel faint and confused. I mentioned it to our family doctor during Connor's checkup. Mrs. Kellner, anxiety can manifest in many physical ways. Have you considered therapy? July 2023. David found me crying in the bathroom after another sleepless night. Becca, what is wrong with you? You have a good life, 2 healthy kids, a nice house. What more do you want? What I wanted was to feel human again. August 2023. I finally broke down and begged David to come with me to a doctor's appointment. I'm not taking time off work, so you can get attention from a doctor who's going to tell you exactly what I've been telling you. You're fine. That's when I started recording our conversations. Not to catch David being mean, but because I genuinely started to believe I might be having memory problems. Maybe I was exaggerating my symptoms. Maybe I was being dramatic. I needed to hear how these conversations actually sounded. The recordings broke my heart. August 15th recording, David on the phone with his brother. Rebecca's been obsessing over some lumps in her neck. 3 different doctors have told her they're nothing, but she keeps insisting something's wrong. I swear, she's turning into one of those hypochondriac wives. September 3rd, recording. Mia, talking to her friend in our living room. My mom's been weird lately. She's always talking about being sick, but my dad says she's just dramatic. She's probably going through that thing where old ladies think they're dying all the time. Old ladies. I was 38. October 12th, recording, my own mother during Sunday dinner. Rebecca, I'm worried about your mental health. This obsession with illness isn't normal. Maybe you should talk to someone professional. November 20th, recording. David, after I'd mentioned feeling dizzy during Mia's soccer game. Becca, you're embarrassing me. Sarah's mom asked if you were okay, and I had to explain that you've been having health issues for months. It makes me look like I can't take care of my own wife. He was embarrassed by my illness, not worried. Embarrassed. December 18th recording, David's poker night. I'd stayed upstairs because I felt awful, but I could hear everything through the vents. David, Rebecca thinks she's dying again this week. Last month it was cancer. This month she's convinced she has some autoimmune disease. Friend, dude, my ex-wife did the same thing. It's an attention thing. They hit 40 and suddenly every ache is a medical emergency. David, I've stopped listening, honestly. She'll find something new to worry about next month. They all laughed. Stopped listening. My husband had stopped listening to me while I was dying. January 2024. I'd been documenting symptoms for 8 months when I finally found Dr. Elena Harrison, a hematologist, through my insurance provider's website. I didn't tell David about the appointment. I'd learned that mentioning doctor visits just triggered another lecture about wasting time and money. Dr. Harrison was different from the moment I walked into her office. She looked at me, really looked, while I described my symptoms. Mrs. Kellner, how long have you been experiencing these symptoms? 2 years. Her eyebrows shot up. 2 years. And what testing have you had done? I pulled out my phone and showed her every blood test, every dismissive doctor's note, every normal result that everyone used to prove I was fine. Dr. Harrison was quiet for a long time, reading through everything. Mrs. Kellner, I'm going to be direct with you. Based on your symptom description and physical presentation, this needs immediate investigation. I'm ordering a CT scan and several blood panels that should have been done 18 months ago. I started crying, not from fear, but from relief. Someone was finally taking me seriously. Doctor, my family thinks I'm being dramatic. My husband says I'm imagining things. Dr. Harrison set down my file and looked me straight in the eyes. Mrs. Kellner, you know your body better than anyone else. Trust yourself. I've been practicing medicine for 20 years, and the patients who advocate for themselves are usually right. The CT scan was scheduled for the following week, Tuesday, January 23rd, 2024, 2:47 p.m. I was sitting in Starbucks, grading papers for my 10th grade English class, when Dr. Harrison called. Mrs. Kellner, I need you to come to my office immediately. Bring someone with you if possible. Bring someone. Everyone knows what that means. I called David. It went straight to voicemail. He was at a job site, probably had his phone turned off. I drove to Dr. Harrison's office alone, just like I'd driven to every appointment for the past 2 years. She didn't make me wait. The nurse walked me straight back to her private office. Mrs. Kellner, your CT scan shows enlarged lymph nodes throughout your chest, abdomen, and neck. Combined with your blood work, you have stage 2 Hodgkin's lymphoma. Cancer. I had cancer. For 2 years, while my family told me I was imagining things, cancer was growing inside my body. The good news, Dr. Harrison continued, is that Hodgkin's lymphoma has excellent treatment outcomes, especially when caught at stage 2. The challenging news is that your symptoms suggest this has been developing for quite some time. How long? Based on the progression I'm seeing, probably 18 to 24 months. 2 years. 2 years of David rolling his eyes when I said I felt sick. 2 years of my kids learning to ignore their mother's health concerns. 2 years of my own family convincing me I was crazy, while cancer quietly spread through my lymphatic system. Dr. Harrison handed me tissues I didn't realize I needed. Mrs. Kellner, I need to ask, why wasn't this investigated sooner? These symptoms are fairly classic for lymphoma. I pulled out my phone and played her one of the recordings. David's voice filled her office. Rebecca thinks she's dying again this week. I've stopped listening, honestly. Dr. Harrison's face changed. The professional compassion shifted into something harder. Mrs. Kellner, medical gaslighting is a real phenomenon, especially for women. Your concerns were valid. Your symptoms were real. And you deserved medical attention long before this. I drove home from Dr. Harrison's office in a state I can only describe as surreal clarity. David was already home, sitting at the kitchen counter with a beer, scrolling through his phone. Normal Tuesday evening. Hey babe, how was your day? He didn't look up. I have cancer. He looked up then. What? Stage 2, Hodgkin's lymphoma. I've had it for about 2 years. The beer bottle froze halfway to his mouth. That's not possible. You just had blood work done. Dr. Peterson said everything was normal. I pulled out my phone and placed it on the counter between us. I've been recording our conversations for 8 months. His face went pale. I pressed play on the first recording. His voice filled our kitchen. Rebecca's been obsessing over some lumps. 3 different doctors have told her they're nothing. His own words hung in the air like an accusation. Rebecca, I pressed play on another recording. I've stopped listening, honestly. She'll find something new to worry about next month. David set down his beer with shaking hands. I need you to listen to all of these, I said, because I want you to understand what it sounds like when your wife is dying and you decide her pain isn't worth your attention. For 23 minutes, David listened to 8 months of his own voice, dismissing, mocking, and minimizing his wife's cancer symptoms. When the last recording ended, our kitchen was completely silent. Rebecca, I didn't know. You didn't want to know. There's a difference. He started crying then. What do we do now? I looked at this man I'd been married to for 14 years, who'd spent 2 years convincing me I was crazy while cancer grew in my body. Now I get treatment, and you figure out how to explain to Mia and Connor why Daddy spent 2 years telling them Mommy was imagining being sick. I started chemotherapy 3 weeks later. David wanted to drive me to appointments, wanted to sit with me during treatments, wanted to research lymphoma and become suddenly supportive. Rebecca, please let me help. I want to be there for you. But I'd spent 2 years learning that I couldn't count on his support. Cancer didn't change that overnight. David, for 2 years, you told everyone who would listen that I was imagining my illness. I can't trust you with my medical care, but I want to make it right. You can make it right by taking care of the kids while I'm getting chemotherapy, and by never again telling them their concerns aren't real. I brought my sister Lisa to every appointment. She'd flown out from Phoenix the day after my diagnosis, took a leave of absence from her job, and moved into our guest room. Rebecca, I should have insisted you see another doctor months ago. I knew you weren't being dramatic. Lisa had been the only family member who'd consistently supported my health concerns. She'd witnessed some of David's dismissive comments and had tried to push back. Lisa, you tried. David shut down anyone who suggested I might actually be sick. During my second chemo session, David texted me, "How are you feeling?" I sent back, "Like I have cancer." He didn't text again that day. By my 4th month of treatment, something unexpected happened. I felt stronger than I'd felt in years. Not physically, chemotherapy is brutal, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. For the first time in my adult marriage, I was making decisions based solely on my own needs and medical advice. No committee, no debates, no dismissive comments. The difference was remarkable. I slept better despite chemo side effects. I felt more confident. I stopped apologizing for taking up space with my illness. Dr. Harrison noticed during a checkup, "Mrs. Kellner, you seem different, more present. How are you handling treatment?" I've removed the people from my life who convinced me to doubt my own body. It's amazing what happens when you stop listening to people who gaslight your medical concerns. Meanwhile, David was struggling. Without me to dismiss and minimize, he had to face the reality of our family dynamics. He had to explain to our kids why mommy was getting chemotherapy for an illness he'd spent 2 years denying. Mia, my 12-year-old, asked him directly, "Dad, if mom really was sick this whole time, why did you keep saying she wasn't?" I wasn't there for that conversation, but Lisa told me David cried trying to answer. Connor, my 10-year-old, started asking me medical questions David couldn't handle. "Mom, how do you know when something in your body is really wrong?" You listen to your body, sweetheart. If something feels different or scary, you tell a grown-up who will take you seriously. What if the grown-up says you're imagining it? Then you find a different grown-up. These conversations were breaking David's heart, but they needed to happen. Month 6, Dr. Harrison delivered the news I'd been praying for. "Mrs. Kellner, your scans show complete remission. There's no detectable cancer in your body." I sobbed. Not just from relief, but from vindication. Every symptom had been real. Every concern had been valid. Every moment of pain had been my body fighting for its life. I called David from the parking lot of the medical center. "The cancer's gone. I'm in remission." For the first time in 6 months, I heard him cry with relief instead of guilt. "Rebecca, can I take you to dinner? Can we celebrate?" I sat in my car, listening to my husband offer to celebrate my survival of an illness he'd spent 2 years denying. "David, I'll be home in an hour. We need to talk." That evening, I sat across from him at our kitchen table, the same table where I'd played those recordings 8 months earlier. "I'm cancer-free, but our marriage isn't cured." He nodded, tears streaming down his face. "You spent 2 years teaching our children that their mother's pain wasn't worth believing. You taught them that women who advocate for their health are dramatic and should be dismissed. I know, I was wrong about everything. David, I forgave the cancer for attacking my body faster than I can forgive you for attacking my credibility while it was happening." 8 months after remission, David and I started marriage counseling, not to save our marriage, but to end it responsibly. Our therapist, Dr. Patricia Williams, helped us understand something crucial. David's dismissal of my illness wasn't just about him being a bad husband. It was about a learned pattern of not believing women's pain. "David," Dr. Williams said during one session, "when Rebecca told you she was in pain, what did you hear?" "Complaining. I heard complaining." "And when she said she needed medical attention?" "I heard, I don't know, that she wanted attention." "Rebecca, when you told David you were in pain, what did you need?" "I needed him to believe me. I needed him to help me figure out what was wrong." "And when he dismissed your concerns, how did that affect your ability to advocate for your health?" "I started believing him instead of my body. I delayed seeking proper medical care because my own husband convinced me I was imagining my illness." That was the moment David truly understood what he'd done. "I almost killed you with my indifference." "Yes," I said. "You did." David and I divorced 6 months later. Not from anger, but from acceptance. We'd grown into people who couldn't safely be married to each other, but we figured out how to co-parent our kids without teaching them to dismiss each other's concerns. David learned to ask Mia and Connor, "How are you feeling? What do you need?" instead of, "You're fine." I learned that I deserved to be believed about my own body, my own pain, my own needs. Today, 2 years cancer-free, I live in a small house in Pasadena with a garden I tend myself. I teach English at a different high school, where my colleagues know I'm a cancer survivor who trusts her instincts. I'm dating a man named James, who's never once rolled his eyes when I mention a health concern. Last month, I had a weird pain in my side, and he said, "Want me to drive you to urgent care?" Just like that. No questions, no dismissals, no lectures about being dramatic. That's what support looks like. Mia and Connor stay with me every other week. They've learned to trust their own bodies and speak up when something feels wrong. More importantly, they've learned to believe other people when they say they're in pain. Last week, Connor told me his friend Jake seemed really sad at school. Did you ask him what's wrong? Yeah. He said his parents are fighting a lot and he's scared they're getting divorced. What did you do? I told him that sounded really scary and asked if he wanted to talk to you or Dad about it. My 10-year-old son had learned to believe someone's pain and offer help. That's the opposite of what he learned from watching his father dismiss me. If you're watching this story and you recognize yourself in it, if you've been told you're being dramatic, if your health concerns have been dismissed, if you've been convinced you're imagining your own pain, please hear me. Your body is not lying to you. Your symptoms are not imaginary. Your pain deserves to be believed. And if the people around you can't offer that belief, find people who can. Because the most dangerous thing about medical gaslighting isn't just that it delays diagnosis, it's that it teaches you to doubt your own experience of being alive in your body. I almost died not just from cancer, but from learning not to trust myself. Don't let anyone teach you to ignore your own voice. It might be the only one that can save your life. Have you ever been told you were imagining health problems that turned out to be real? How did you find the strength to keep advocating for yourself? What would you say to someone whose concerns aren't being taken seriously? If this story reminded you to trust your own body and demand the care you deserve, like this video and subscribe. Because believing women about their own health shouldn't be revolutionary, but sometimes it is.